Hi, my name is Dietrich and I'm recording my video for assignment 2, EDFD546, Learning and Teaching. I want to discuss and examine how ICT, Information Communication Technologies, can be integrated in light of a teaching strategy, constructivism, to further enhance how learners and teachers can learn in a classroom setting. I want to examine and synthesize individual and social constructivist approaches to learning and teaching and see how the development of these strategies can help the needs of diverse learners. I would like to start by talking a bit about constructivism, what the theory is based around, and how it actually is applied and integrated in light of ICTs. Constructivism is a theory that suggests that people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experience and subsequent reflection. Constructivism is actually based on social learning theory, which assumes that people learn in groups and from one another. Vygotsky in particular builds on Piaget's work and describes the importance of social interaction in learning. And in particular, one key aspect is interaction. Students who learn from each other, reciprocal learning and teaching. The constructivist approach is highly student or learner-centered in comparison to the more traditional teacher-centered approach. And some advocates of the theory suggest that ICT provides students with the constructivist tools to learn for themselves, such as observation, questioning, practicing, and validating knowledge. So in constructivism, students need to find knowledge, find information, ask questions, reflect, and build on the knowledge that they have to have themselves. So independence, self-efficacy is a very important aspect of this. And so the first ICT tool that I've chosen to use is the iPad, and the iPad is very common that you can see in students in secondary school throughout Australia these days. It's a very sensory tool, and it basically functions like a computer or a laptop, but it allows students a lot of autonomy and even creativity in the way they can learn. They are given the sense that they are in control of their own learning with their iPad, and they're provided a tool that has a lot of sensory and visual learning strategies. So this will help students in that diverse group, those who need sensory learning or those whose learning styles are a bit more visual. The iPad is a very useful tool there. ICTs basically are useful if they are encouraging of interactivity, which is what constructivism is all about. Interactivity, especially between the user and the technology. Some are web-based technologies, and these are described as mind tools. In particular, these mind tools or web-based technologies can be used for interactivity, not only between the student and the teacher, but amongst peers. But for the second ICT learning tools that may be relevant to students in years 7 to 10, I've chosen to use a Gmail account and GChat. So they have their own email account, and so they could access GChat. And now email is a very formal way of interacting, and I've included that there because even though constructivism encourages a student or a learner-centered approach, it is still important that the teacher provides some sort of guidance, and that's where the email comes into play. I could use the email to ask questions, or basically encourage them to talk about it amongst themselves. And that's where G-Chat might be useful, Google Chat, a collaborative discussion. Um, Constructivism always wants to encourage the students to collaborate, and it involves communication. So as soon as they are working on a problem, thinking and talking with others, that doesn't have to be limited to a physical setting. It's a web-based technology, but there they're encouraged to learn. That's what social learning theory is about. And again, Vygotsky is the one who's done a lot of research into the developmental stages that we need to learn from one another. And so the final one is Google Docs, and Google Docs is the tool that I've chosen to reflect Vygotsky's work in collaborating with one another, learning from one another, and in particular this idea of expertise teaching. So once a student develops the confidence of the material or whatever the question is, even if it's just searching some information, they can actually share and teach and guide other students. And Google Docs is a great tool for that, because they can actually open a document or an Excel sheet and begin working on it together. And so in conjunction with their iPads and with the chat, it can be a great tool. And finally, I'd like to respond to how students can use these technologies safely, responsibly, and ethically in the secondary school classroom environment. I've decided to use a private email, so each student actually has their own email, and they could log in and know their password and know that they're actually secure in terms of their information, and they can keep that as an individual account, which they'll use to log into different applications. Google Documents and Google themselves encourages constructivist learning. They could search a lot of information, but it's very important in terms of safety and responsibility that this teacher themselves, in this case me, can monitor the students' learning. And so Google has this facility where we can actually monitor and see what the students learning. Like for example, if I have my own account and if I start the group, it's very controlled, and I just like to use a contrast. So unlike Facebook or other social media out there where it's very visual based, Google is a bit more professional, and it may avoid future problems such as bullying or content that is inappropriate. So I think that we can use these three ICT, information communication technologies, to enhance student learning in this age group through the learning strategy of constructivism.